As I took my seat at my granddaughter's wedding, my heart swelled with pride and anticipation. But as I settled into the chair marked, "The old lady who paid for everything," I felt a cold wave of disbelief wash over me. The words were staring right back at me, etched boldly onto that little card. It was like a stab to the heart, a cruel reminder of years of sacrifices and love financially supporting this family. And all of this, orchestrated by none other than my own daughter-in-law, Susan. This wasn't just a simple slight. It was the culmination of years of brewing tension. Rewind a few years, and our relationship wasn't as strained. Back then, Susan was just the sweet girl my son had fallen for. They met during a Thanksgiving dinner at our family home in Ohio, where I proudly served the traditional turkey stuffed with rosemary and sage, just as my mother had taught me. The aroma would fill the air, mingling with laughter and the clinking of cutlery. It was during one of these cherished gatherings that Susan entered our lives, with her wide smile and infectious charm. But as time went on, signs began to appear. It was in the little things. The way she'd often undermine my opinions at family dinners, or dismissively thank me for helping with the down payment of their first house, always with a hint of sarcasm. Susan was becoming a constant reminder of how gratitude can sometimes twist into entitlement. My shopping trips to the local farmers market became my escape, relishing in the vibrant colors of fresh produce and reminiscing about simpler times. Yet no act of kindness ever seemed to thaw the growing ice between us. I would crochet blankets for their home, pour hours into perfecting family recipes for Sunday dinners, only to be met with Susan's tight-lipped smiles. It was like a dance around unspoken grievances, each step a precarious sway toward an inevitable confrontation. This story is about more than just a place card at a wedding. It's about the cracks that can appear in even the sturdiest of family foundations, and the resilience needed to hold them together. If you've ever felt out of place in your own family, like a stranger in the midst of supposed love, join me on this journey by subscribing to the channel. Let's explore how sometimes the toughest challenges come from those we hold dearest. As I clenched the place card in my hand, I felt a surge of emotions I couldn't quite categorize. An amalgamation of anger, disappointment, and a hint of resolve. The wedding reception buzzed around me, oblivious to the storm brewing within. Susan moved gracefully from table to table, her laughter echoing like an invisible taunt. She exuded a certain aura of control, masterfully orchestrating the day's events with an air of superiority thinly veiled under the guise of hospitality. The tangible reminder of Susan's disregard, those hateful words on the card, brought forth memories of past encounters. At family dinners, our discussions often transformed into debates. My suggestions were subtly undermined, with her smooth words wrapping sarcasm in the guise of politeness. "Oh, thanks for the advice, but we've already sorted it out," she'd say, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Her motivations? Perhaps an ingrained sense of superiority or the subtle resentment of stepping into a family that cherished tradition and history, things she viewed as burdens rather than blessings. Honestly, at times, it seemed like her mission was to erase the memories I cherished and replace them with something new, something that bore her mark alone. The family home, a symbol of generations of love and gatherings, became a canvas for her ambitions. Every suggestion she made was like stripping a layer of paint, revealing the raw feud beneath. The kitchen, once my domain of comfort and legacy, where the scent of homemade bread and the echoes of childhood laughter intertwined, was now a space accommodating new appliances and minimalist aesthetics that felt more like a showroom than a home. My husband, bless his heart, remained frustratingly neutral. Mark, my rock for decades, became more like a pebble adrift in Susan's tide. He'd shrug off her subtle jabs, chalking it up to generational differences. Yet, it was deeper than that. There was a passive complicity in his silence, an unwillingness to rock the boat even as it started taking on water. He'd say, "You know how Susan is. She's just trying to help." But his words felt empty, void of the understanding or support I needed. Sometimes I wondered if it was his way of avoiding conflict, a silent plea for peace in our twilight years, no matter the personal cost to me. The reception continued, oblivious to the undercurrents I navigated. Guests swirled around, offering their congratulations and chatters. It was then I caught the eye of my dear friend Carol, sitting at a table nearby. She waved warmly, our silent understanding bridging the gap instantly. Carol had always been a confidant, someone outside the family web who saw the threads for what they truly were. Finding a moment when Susan was preoccupied, I made my way to Carol's table. Her face, etched with lines of empathy and wisdom, offered a solace I desperately needed. "I saw the card," she began, her voice low enough to veil our conversation in the murmur of the crowd. "Did you?" I replied, a shaky laugh escaping my lips. I can't believe she went this far. Carol reached out, placing a reassuring hand over mine. "People often reveal their true nature in the subtlest ways," she observed. "But why? Why does she harbor this resentment?" I hadn't spoken these thoughts aloud before. But with Carol, words tumbled out, heavy with a truth I'd long suppressed. "It's more than resentment," I confessed. "It's a need for control, a way to diminish what came before, as if rewriting history to prove she belongs at the center." Carol nodded. "Susan must have her reasons, twisted as they may be. But allowing her to continue unchecked only deepens those cracks you spoke of." I sighed, the weight of years pressing down. "And Mark? He's blind to it all. Or if he sees it, he chooses to turn the other way." Carol's gaze softened, a knowing look etched on her face. "He's made his bed in a troubled peace. But you," she emphasized, "you must decide where and when to take a stand. Let today be the wake-up call you need." Her words resonated within me, a beacon cutting through the fog, illuminating paths I'd hesitated to walk. It was time for a confrontation, a reckoning of sorts, no matter how discomforting the prospect seemed. As the evening progressed, I kept a watchful eye on Susan. Her calculated interactions, the way she moved like a conductor guiding an orchestra, cemented my resolve. When the opportunity arose, guests engrossed in the dance floor's merriment or tales of nostalgia, I approached her. "Susan," I started, my voice steady, though my heart pounded with the weight of unspoken grievances. "Can we talk? Privately?" She arched an eyebrow but nodded, the hint of a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. We stepped outside, the cool evening air a stark contrast to the charged atmosphere inside. "Is this about the card?" she asked, feigning innocence, her body language dismissive. I took a deep breath. "Why, Susan? Why this need to constantly undermine and belittle?" Her facade cracked, revealing a glimpse of the contempt I'd long suspected. "It's not about undermining, if that's what you think," she retorted. "It's about relevance. Out with the old ways to make room for something that actually works." "Something that works?" I echoed incredulously. "Every tradition, every memory we've built, you demean to position yourself? Traditions don't pay the bills, do they?" she countered, her tone sharp. "You hold on to them so dearly, like relics that hinder progress. We need to move forward, not cling to what was." I shook my head, sadness mingling with my anger. This family isn't just about what works in Susan. It's about connection, legacy, values that go beyond bank statements and shiny new gadgets. Her eyes flashed. "Legacy," she scoffed, "is what holds people back. I'm not devaluing the past, but we must adapt. If you can't see that, you're blinding yourself." In that moment, her struggles were laid bare, more than just ambition or control, but an insecurity masked by disdain. A part of me felt sorry for her, the other, resolute in standing my ground. "I see clearer than ever now," I replied, calm washing over me. "But I will not stand by as our history is rewritten without respect. That card, gesture, its lines we're both aware of." I turned, leaving Susan in the night, my footsteps sure and steady. Her figure loomed behind me in silence as I walked back to the warmth and light of the wedding. Inside, my family buzzed around me, oblivious to the undercurrents of confrontation. In their midst, I found Carol, her gaze waiting, questioning. I nodded slightly, signaling the act of defiance I'd long postponed was finally cast. As the night waned, guests began their farewells, heartfelt congratulations wrapping around my granddaughter, the family's future. Watching her glow with joy and possibility, I found the strength to uphold what was sacred in our family. There was a resolve I've not felt before, like a fire reigniting deep within. In this skirmish, merely a prelude within the bonds of kinship, paths were drawn. Armed not just with a voice now unleashed, but with the burgeoning understanding that in family, love, and resilience carve the course forward, beyond veils of pettiness and the shadows of assumed inadequacies. As the last of the wedding revelers made their way out into the cool evening air, I lingered in the now quiet reception hall, watching as the staff began clearing decorated tables and stacking chairs. Underneath the smiles and congratulations of the night, lay the seething tension between Susan and me, unsaid by most but not unnoticed by all. It was as though the clash at the reception had only been an overture, setting the stage for the grand crescendo still to come. The next morning, breakfast at the family house was an affair, mixed with lingering fatigue and mild anticipation. The conversation swirled around the previous day's celebrations, everyone basking in the glow of a wedding completed with apparent success. Susan entered the room with a flourish, as though unsettled crickets were drawn to her calculated charm. Her demeanor mildly perplexed. She moved with a subtlety suggesting she'd been preparing for this interaction. Just as everyone settled at the breakfast table, Susan cleared her throat, capturing our attention. Her eyes met mine briefly, a flicker of challenge dancing within them. The room quieted, the familial hum fading into a watchful silence. Her voice, honeyed and firm, carried with it an unexpected proposition. "We've all seen the transformations necessary around the old family house," Susan began, her tone edging on diplomatic. "It's a beauty, truly, but there are means to bring it into the modern era, a vision Mark and I have been considering." A cold wave swept over me. Here was the pivotal ambush, the launching pad for Susan's coup de grace. Her insinuations hadn't been just incidental remarks murmured among relatives. They had cut deeper into the fabric of what my family guarded against the encroachments of passing time. The assembled family echoed mixed sentiments, curiosity hummed among them. Yet, uncertainty sat quietly, coiled within their words like serpents in the grass. "You've been wonderful caretakers," Susan continued, her gaze settling on me, "but maintaining such a large home is challenging at your stage of life." My heart clenched as she launched her final salvo, a proposal insolent in its audacity. "Perhaps it would be more convenient if Mark and I managed things henceforth. With your blessing, of course. Think of it as passing the torch. You'd still live here naturally, but without the stress of the upkeep. We'd handle the modernization finances under the condition of adding our names to the deed." It was a snake's charmed hiss, promising relief while preparing to coil around its prey. Across the table, our eyes locked, an unspoken battle simmering between our gazes as silence thickened like stage fog. "No," I said, the single syllable slicing through the quiet like a saber. Stronger than I anticipated, my voice echoed in contrast to the softness of my usual resolve, a commanding surge from places I'd thought long dormant. What had been a game of gentle trenches was now the open battlefield. I could suddenly feel the weight of generations within the walls around me, lending strength to my stand. "This place isn't just wood and bricks," I continued, regaining the room. "It's history, legacy, and yes, traditions, Susan. What you propose is non-negotiable." Her smile wavered, the confident facade cracking. Mark shifted uncomfortably beside her, his ingrained aversion to conflict threaded over his features. "Eve," he began, appealing to reason, his diplomacy a well-worn groove. "We all want what's best for everyone. And what about what's best for our family history?" I countered softly, yet firmly, appealing to his intrinsic sentimentality. "What has it stood for all these years? What are we, if not its guardians?" Mark hesitated, torn between his wife and the roots that once grounded him. Susan's eyes flared, a quick spark, as if daring him to vacillate and lose this handhold she'd cleverly crafted. Carol, seated alongside, watched the exchange intently. Her presence was grounding, yet deliberately withdrawn, a silent reminder of the unseen fortitude some friendships offer. She glanced at Mark imploringly, but knew this battle was mine, and mine alone to fight. "Susan, do you truly not see what this means?" I asked, walking a careful line between appeal and accusation. Keeping my voice steady, I drew from depths of valor, clutching the fragile threads of memory surrounding us. "You can't erase those embedded moments or replace them with modernity, no matter how right the intentions. History can guide but shouldn't shackle us," Susan replied, the veneer of her assurance cracking like thin ice. "Is there no room for blending, for forward thinking? Traditions can suffocate as often as they support." She spoke with the fervor of a reformer, yet the sharpness in her voice was that of a conqueror eyeing new territories. I could respect the intention behind progress, but not at the cost she demanded, wanting us sacrificed upon sacred altars of her ambition. "No," I repeated, meeting her gaze. "What suffocates is the imposing weight of self-serving agendas buried beneath good intentions." The words landed heavy between us, reverberating like a chorus from spirit echoes lining these walls. What followed was a void tempered by reflection, the kind of silence often precursor to final acts, where reluctant admissions acquiesce to resounding truths. Susan's veneer finally crumbled, and it was there I glimpsed the human, briefly vulnerable yet fiercely resolved, masking apprehension with defiance. The heated exchange left behind scalding footprints, but no clear victor yet pronounced. The ordeal was more than just property. It became a test of will, identity, and belonging within a changing family dynamic. Intersectional truths emerged through the rupture, a shift that sought cohesion amidst tumultuous awe. Realignment. In those quiet moments post-Inquisition, the family spread in corners through the house, digesting what remained unsaid over solemn quietude. Mark approached me once more, taciturn, the gravity of emotion hanging upon unspoken words. We stood side by side, watching memories dance past and whispered recognitions entwine the rooms. "I see her point," he acknowledged softly, almost apologetically. "But I see yours more, Eve. Maybe it isn't about sides," I responded gently, hoping for understanding to grow within eventual concessions. "It's about being custodians, not conquerors, about protecting, not just preserving, what we hold dear." It was the understanding I needed, and perhaps the bridge for Susan's willingness to listen, one day, hinge or not, on fear-driven denials transformed into acknowledgement. As the day faded to dusk, with it drew a tightening comfort, evidence that profound conflicts, while burdensome, contribute to a thrumming vitality feeding the lifeblood of a family. Our history would not be redrawn overnight, our lineage stronger than passing whims or rival intentions. Within these defining hours, I understood something essential. Legacies are not records enclosed within walls. They gallop through generations, extended by resilience, empathy, and confrontation. Amidst the woven patterns upon which we tread, in that gray area overlapping tradition and innovation, lay the true heart of our collective narrative. And so, I sat later that evening, enveloped within the timeless enclave, observing shadows dance upon starlit walls, a portrait of progress, holding firm like quivering constellations, whispering ancestral secrets, evermore to custodians of fabled pasts. In the days following the tense breakfast confrontation, I found myself reflecting on the events that had unfolded. The warmth of the morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows, casting long shadows across the floor. As I held a cup of coffee in my hands, its aroma mingling with the crisp air, I pondered over the state of affairs that had been set in motion. Susan's proposition, laced with deceitful benevolence, lingered in my mind like an unwelcome guest. It was more than a matter of updating the family home. It was an attempt to overwrite history, and I could not allow that to happen. Understanding that this battle needed more than just emotional resolve, I decided it was time to seek professional guidance. Consulting a lawyer felt like the next logical step, and the idea of safeguarding our home's legacy legally comforted me. With Carol's encouragement, I reached out to a respected attorney, someone known for her adeptness in handling familial disputes. A few days later, I found myself sitting across from Eleanor Graham in her modest yet welcoming law office. Her reputation preceded her, a woman of fierce intellect and compassionate understanding. As I recounted the tensions brewing within the family, she listened intently, occasionally jotting down notes while her eyes remained firmly fixed on mine, providing a reassuring presence. "Eve," she began, her voice steady and soothing, "what you're experiencing isn't uncommon in family dynamics, especially when generational transitions are involved. The key here is to approach this carefully, ensuring that step we take is well documented. You mentioned the suggestion of adding Susan and Mark to the deed?" I nodded, the memory of Susan's audacious proposal still fresh. "Yes, she wants to modernize the house, but it's more about gaining control, rewriting what our family stands for. I want to protect it, Eleanor." She leaned back slightly, considering her response. "First, we'll need to establish a clear record of ownership and your rights to make decisions regarding the property. I'd suggest drafting a family trust or a legal document that both honors the legacy of your home and clearly outlines who holds authority over it." Her words were a balm, offering a path through the tangled web of emotions and history. I knew this wouldn't be an easy journey, but with Eleanor's help, it was one I was prepared to navigate. With a detailed plan set in motion, Days turned into weeks as we gathered the necessary paperwork and crafted our strategy. During this time, I distanced myself from Susan, allowing space while gaining perspective. She, on the other hand, seemed to revel in her temporary dominion, unperturbed by any indication of resistance. Meanwhile, without her knowledge, Eleanor and I worked diligently. Every document we prepared was a testament to the home's rich history, fortified by my parents and their parents before them. The narrative of the home was carefully preserved, its essence inscribed within the pages Eleanor skillfully crafted. Every photograph, every personal account was gathered as evidence to thwart any claims of negligence or abandonment. As weeks passed, Susan started taking liberties with the house, suggesting minor renovations to test boundaries. Ironically, this only drove her deeper into her web of overreach and painted a clearer picture for Eleanor to present later. My temporary withdrawal led her to overplay her hand, revealing a desperation to seize control. Finally, the day arrived when the culmination of our efforts was ready to be presented. The formal declaration asserting rightful ownership, signed and sealed, exerting the authority I carried. Armed with the documentation, I prepared to assert my claim, not just on bricks and mortar, but on legacy itself. The weekend following our legal preparations, I organized a small yet significant gathering at the family home. It was time to confront Susan with irrefutable truth. As family members trickled in, there was an underlying sense of anticipation, perhaps even hope, that the dispute would find resolution. Susan arrived with Mark, wearing her usual veneer of self-assuredness. However, as the family gathered in the living room, where generations had shared countless memories, a shift in her demeanor was evident. The focus wasn't on celebration, but on confrontation. Eleanor had joined us, not as legal muscle, but as a witness to the proceedings. Her presence added gravity to the event, and I was grateful for her support. As the room quieted, I took a deep breath, grounding myself with the strength I'd gathered over the past weeks. Susan, I addressed her directly, my voice resolute but not unkind. We need to discuss the future of this home. Curiosity flickered in her eyes, mingling with underlying agitation. Eve, if this is about... I interrupted gently, lifting the sheaf of documents Eleanor had prepared. This is about the house and what it truly represents. I handed the papers to her, allowing my intentions to sink in. These documents confirm the legacy of this home, detailing the lineage that upholds its existence. The trust confirms sole authority remains with me, safeguarded for generations to come. She scanned the contents, her expression faltering as realization dawned. Each page was a shield forged in the fires of familial love and historical significance. The silence stretched, filled with the weight of unsaid words. So, this is how it's going to be? Susan finally spoke, her voice edged with bitterness. You think legalities can bind a house to the past? It's not about the past, Susan, I replied softly, but about ensuring our history isn't erased under the guise of progress. This home deserves to tell its story beyond bricks and modern blueprints. Her facade cracked further, vulnerability touching her features. Eve, I never meant... I know, I interrupted, extending an olive branch. Perhaps we can find common ground in honoring both history and innovation, but not at the expense of respect for what came before. The room held its breath as the confrontation settled into a tentative truce. As the remaining family mirrored introspection, Mark stepped forward, a silent acknowledgement of the peace he'd shied from initiating. Eve, he began, his voice carrying genuine sentiment. Thank you for standing firm. It's clearer to me now, the importance that extends beyond material. Those words, simple yet profound, unlocked understanding that transcended the initial conflict, binding us closer as a family. It wasn't victory over Susan I sought, but the preservation of our unity amidst adversity. The gathering ended on a conciliatory note, hope weaving between us. As the afternoon sun dipped behind tranquil horizons, I found solace in the strength that emerged amidst discord. Mark's recognition, Susan's retreat. Small steps bound us anew. Later that evening, as stars twinkled against the deep midnight sky, I walked through the quiet halls of our family home, pausing in the doorway of the kitchen where luminous memories lingered. Listening to the echoes of past laughter and life's simpler pleasures, I felt a profound sense of peace and belonging. In that sacred moment, I began preparing a batch of homemade bread. the same comforting aroma that once filled our halls intertwining with cherished memories. Each kneaded fold worked love into the dough, a symbolic act connecting past, present, and future in one timeless embrace. As dawn approached, I gazed out at the comforting familiarity bathed in the first light of morning, serene in the knowledge that our story would continue, unfolding with resilience and understanding. If this story resonated with you, leave your like. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. How do you balance preserving family history with embracing change? Share your stories, and don't forget to subscribe for more. Until next time.